Hello everyone. In the previous video, we got to know about what is SQL, what is data, what is database, what is database management system, and finally, what is relational database management system. Now, in this video, let's go further and try to understand what is table, what is relational model, and rules of Edgar Frank clearly. Firstly, what is table? Now, you all might get a doubt that why do we need to understand what the table is? Yes, there is a lots of need because in the previous video we got to know that in RDBMS the data is stored in table format, right? So, to understand much better about what is RDBMS and what is SQL, we need to get to know about what the table is. Now, the general definition of table can be said as combination of horizontal and vertical lines. Now, if you observe this diagram, this is about how the table generally looks like. Here, if you observe, it's a combination of lines, horizontal lines and vertical lines, which are known to be columns or attributes or fields, and rows or records or tuples. Now, the vertical lines are known to be the columns and the horizontal lines are known to be the rows. And the logical organization of rows and columns is known as table. This is the formal definition of table. And what is cell? Here, if we zoom in, here this block is referred to as cell. What is cell? Cell is an intersection of a horizontal and a vertical line. Now, the combination of columns and rows is the table, and the intersection of a vertical line and the horizontal line is known to be the cell. Next, coming to relational model. What is relational model? Firstly, relational model was invented by Edgar Frank Codd, and according to this model, it says that any database management system that follows the rules of relational model then becomes RDBMS. Now, what does this definition exactly mean? Let's try to understand this much better with this diagram. Now, if you observe this diagram, any DBMS that follows the rules of relational model then turns into an RDBMS. Now, what is this? A database management system, when follows certain rules which are known to be the rules of relational model, then that will be converted into relational database management system. Now, the data in DBMS is stored in file format as discussed earlier, and when the file format rules when follows the relational model rules, then converted into table format, which is known to be the format how the data is stored in RDBMS. Next, we have understood that there are certain rules of relational model. What are those rules exactly? Let's try to understand what the rules are. So, the rules of relational model are popularly known as rules of Edgar Frank. First rule, there are 4 rules of Edgar Frank that every database management system has to follow to convert into an RDBMS. Now, the rule number 1. According to Edgar Frank, data or values entered into a cell must be single valued data. Now, what this exactly mean? Let's try to understand this much better with an example. Now, if we observe, this is a student table with 3 different columns or attributes and 4 different records or rows. Firstly, student name, next student course and phone number. Now, if we observe student name, it has only single value or single data in a particular cell. But if we go through student course, there are 2 different values or 2 different data in a single cell. And if you observe phone number column, here also contains 2 different values or 2 different data in a single cell, which is not the rule that satisfy the conditions of RDBMS. What does this mean? Then how can this satisfy the rule of RDBMS? There should be only single data in single cell. Now, if we observe this table, which covers the same data as the above table, now student name, S course 1, S course 2, phone number and alternative phone number. Now, student name contains only one data in each cell, and student course 1 contains only one value or one data in each cell, and student course 2 also contains only one data in each cell, phone number and alternative phone numbers. These columns also contain only single value data in each cell. Now, this is what the rule number 1 exactly means. The best example for this is that if we observe the Instagram account, an Instagram account, for example, or Facebook. If I wanted to log into Facebook, then it will be asking for email address or phone number in one cell and the password in one cell. Now, can we enter both email address and phone number in this cell? No, it's not possible. Can we enter two different passwords in this single cell? No, it's not possible. So, what does this exactly mean? Only one data can be entered into a cell, which means single value data. I think you guys might understand what this rule number 1 exactly tries to explain us. Now, coming to rule number 2. According to Edgar Frank, we can store data in multiple tables, and if needed, we can establish connection between the tables by using key attributes. Now, this seems a bit difficult, right? But it's very simple. Trust me, guys. It's very simple when you try to understand this with an example. Now, let's consider this example. Now, here we have two different tables. Of one table is student details and one table refers to college details. First one, student table contains student name, branch and student ID. College table contains student ID and college name and address of the college. Now, if I have to build a single table, then it contains 6 different columns or 6 different attributes, which will be a bit complex for every one of us to understand each and every data, right? Now, instead of that, if I create different tables like this, two different tables like this, one table for student details and one table for college details, and I can create multiple tables, and if needed, if I have to observe or study or go through the entire data of two different tables, I can establish a connection using key attributes. What are these key attributes? We'll get to know in further videos. Firstly, key attribute refers to the column name, right? So, using the column names or attributes, we can establish the connection between multiple tables in RDBMS. This is what the rule number 2 refers to. Now, coming to rule number 3. According to Edgar Frank, in RDBMS, everything will be stored in table format, including metadata. In the earlier video, we got to know that the data in RDBMS is stored in the form of table, right? Now, what does this rule number 3 exactly refers to? It says that everything in RDBMS, everything in relational database management system is stored in the form of table, including metadata. What does this new term refers to? We are not familiar with this, right? What is metadata? Now, metadata refers to the data inside the data. What does this exactly mean? For example, let's consider this example to understand much better. Now, this is the customer table, and this table refers to the customer name and the product that is purchased by the customer. Customer names Raghu and Rani, products water bottle and lipstick. Now, this is the data of customer table, right? Now, there is data, metadata refers to the data inside the data, right? Now, if we go to a particular water bottle is the data, right? Water bottle is the data or product that is purchased by Raghu. Now, if we go through water bottle clearly that he purchased, then there will be some data that is related to the bottle on the bottle, right? Just like product ID, it contains the product color, it contains the branding, brand naming, right? Now, this and all data is about some other data that is purchased by Raghu. Some other product that is purchased by Raghu, right? What does this mean? This is the data. Now, product ID, product color, and brand is the data that is present inside the data. Now, lipstick, if you consider lipstick contains some product ID on it. It will be having color on it. It will be having brand name on it. So, the data that is inside the data is known to be the metadata. Now, everything in RDBMS can be stored in table format, including the metadata. We can create another table about the product ID, color, brand of the product, right? So, the data inside the data can also be converted into a table format in RDBMS. This is what about rule number 3. Now, let us try to understand rule number 4. According to Edgar Frank, data validation is done by 2 steps. The first one is by assigning data type and by assigning constraints. What does this mean? Whatever data that is stored or created, that is managed or deleted, that data validation is entirely done by using these 2 steps in RDBMS. What is that? First is assigning the data type and the second is assigning the constraints. Now, what does this data type and constraints? We'll learn about it in the next video. And in the next video, we'll be covering the installation of the